Imagine waking up one day and realizing that everything you were taught about yourself was only half the truth. That the light you were told to chase, the goodness you were urged to embody, was only one side of the cosmic mirror. I set out on a journey, not to find the light, but to face the darkness within. And what I uncovered was far more powerful, far more transformative than any feel-good lesson ever could be. Today we are diving into that hidden realm where your true power has been waiting for you all along. We often live our lives running from our darker emotions, fear, anger, sadness, as if they are enemies to be conquered. But what if I told you that within these very feelings lies the raw material of your greatness? What if, by embracing your pain instead of numbing it, you could unlock a strength that no external force could ever take from you? I had to ask myself one terrifying question: what am I so afraid to see within myself? And today, I ask you the same: what part of you have you denied so completely that you've forgotten it even exists? When I first began this journey, I thought it would be about purification, about ascending to some higher version of myself. But quickly I realized that true ascension requires descent first. I had to go into the underworld of my own soul, into the parts that I was ashamed of, the memories I wanted to erase, the instincts I tried to suppress. It was in the bowels of my own being that I found the treasures I was seeking all along. Isn't it ironic that what we most desire is hidden in the places we least want to explore?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
There's a reason why myths across cultures speak of heroes entering caves, battling monsters, and emerging victorious. These stories aren't just entertainment, they're maps. They are ancestral blueprints, guiding us toward an internal confrontation we all must face sooner or later. I realized that the dragons I feared weren't outside of me. They were stitched into my very DNA, inherited fears, traumas, and untapped powers. You have dragons inside you too, and they are not your enemies. They are your guardians, waiting for you to prove yourself worthy of the gifts they protect. The first step in embracing your dark energy is radical acceptance. I'm not talking about passive resignation to your flaws. I mean looking at your rage, your jealousy, your despair, and saying, "I see you. You belong here." When you do this, something miraculous happens. The energy you once wasted in hiding or fighting these parts of yourself becomes available for creation, for transformation. But ask yourself, how much of your life force have you been using to maintain a mask? As I went deeper, I learned how to dialogue with my darkness. I would sit in meditation, not seeking peace, but inviting whatever chaos lived inside me to come forward. Sometimes it came as a memory, a scream, a sob, a primal growl. And every time, rather than flinching, I leaned in closer. "What are you trying to teach me?" I would ask, and the answers were never what I expected. But sometimes the darkness showed me ancient wounds. Other times, it showed me hidden talents I had suppressed out of fear of standing out. One night, after hours of intense inner confrontation, something broke open inside me. But I felt a surge of energy so potent, so fierce, that it scared me. It was as if a volcano that had been dormant for eons suddenly erupted. But instead of destroying me, it filled me with an unspeakable vitality. That was the first time I truly felt my own power, not the polite, socially acceptable version, but the wild, untamable force that had been caged for too long. Have you ever felt a glimpse of that raw, primal energy hiding beneath your surface? Dark energy is not evil, it's misunderstood. It's the compost from which new life grows. It's the rage that fuels revolutions, the grief that deepens love, the fear that sharpens awareness. But it only serves you when you acknowledge it, when you integrate it. Suppress it, and it controls you from the shadows. Embrace it, and it becomes your most loyal ally. I had to learn this the hard way through sleepless nights, broken relationships, and moments of sheer terror when I thought I was losing my mind. There's a kind of death that happens when you truly face your darkness. It's the death of your false self, the persona you carefully constructed to be loved and accepted. And it's terrifying because it feels like annihilation. But after that death, something extraordinary is born. A version of you that is whole, undivided, and unstoppable. Can you imagine living without shame, without fear of your own depths? I started doing practices that terrified me. I would spend whole nights in isolation, staring into the mirror, speaking to the parts of myself that I had abandoned. I would write letters to my anger, to my sadness, thanking them for their loyalty. I danced wildly to drums, letting my body move the way my soul wanted, not how society dictated. Each act of defiance against the inner critic was a liberation, and each liberation gave me back a piece of my soul. If you want to awaken your true power, you must be willing to feel everything you've been avoiding, not just intellectually, but viscerally. Let your grief flood your chest. Let your rage burn in your belly. Let your fear tremble through your bones. And as you do, watch how these energies, once feared, become rivers of strength coursing through you. What would happen if you stopped running from your emotions and started listening to them instead? One of the most powerful practices I discovered was shadow journaling. Every morning, before speaking to anyone, I would write from the voice of my shadow. I would let it say all the forbidden things, the jealousies, the resentments, the fears. And rather than judging these words, I honored them as sacred truths. Over time, I began to see patterns, understandings, even messages from my deeper self. The shadow is not mindless darkness. It is wounded wisdom waiting for you to listen. I also learned the importance of ritual. Not the sterile kind, but visceral, blood and bone rituals that reconnect you to the earth, to your ancestors, to the primal forces within. I would light candles, burn herbs, chant ancient songs, and let myself be transported into altered states of consciousness. In these states, I encountered guides, some terrifying, some loving, who showed me visions of what I could become if I dared to embrace all that I am. Could it be that the life you dream of is hidden on the other side of the fears you refuse to face? Every step of this journey demanded courage, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. I learned that true bravery is standing naked before your own soul, stripped of all illusions, and saying, I am ready. Ready to grieve, ready to rage, ready to love so fiercely that it breaks every chain around your heart. Are you ready? The world around us mirrors the world within us. The chaos we see outside is a reflection of the chaos we have refused to heal inside. If you want to change the world, start by confronting your own darkness. Heal it, integrate it, and you become a beacon of true power that uplifts rather than dominates, that creates rather than destroys. What if your greatest contribution to the world starts with the deepest confrontation with yourself? This journey is not for the faint of heart. It demands everything you are and everything you thought you needed to be. But the reward is beyond anything you can imagine. It's the freedom to live fully, love deeply, and create fearlessly. It's the knowing that you are both the light and the dark, the creator and the destroyer, the dreamer and the dream. Can you feel the ancient fire stirring in your blood as you hear these words? When I reached the threshold of my inner abyss, I realized something shocking. The darkness was not empty, but it was alive. It shimmered with potential, vibrating with every possibility I had never dared to claim. Standing there, I understood that the dark energy inside us is not a void to fear, but a fertile ground waiting to birth new worlds. Have you ever considered that the parts of yourself you most fear might be the very keys to your destiny? I began to see my life differently. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every failure was not a punishment, but an initiation. Each wound was a doorway, an invitation to descend deeper into my own being. And every time I accepted the invitation instead of resisting it, I came back stronger, clearer, more whole. What have you been interpreting as punishment that might actually be a sacred initiation? In ancient times, spiritual seekers would voluntarily enter dark caves, fast for days, and confront their worst nightmares. They knew that without facing the shadow, no real wisdom could be attained. We have forgotten this in our modern world of instant gratification and superficial positivity. But true power is not found in avoiding pain, but in transmuting it. What if the next time you felt fear, you welcomed it the way you would welcome an old teacher? One of the most profound lessons I learned is that dark energy operates by different rules than the light. Light energy is expansive, outward, radiant. Dark energy is contracting, inward, magnetic. It pulls you into yourself, forcing you to encounter what you would rather ignore. When you harness both energies, you become a complete being capable of both fierce action and profound stillness. Do you know how to hold both your light and your dark without collapsing into either? As I trained myself to work with my dark energy, I noticed my intuition becoming sharper. I could feel the hidden currents beneath people's words. I could sense opportunities and dangers before they manifested. The darkness had heightened my senses, awakening primal instincts that had been dulled by years of conditioning. I was no longer just thinking my way through life, I was feeling it, sensing it, dancing with it. How much more alive could you become if you trusted your instincts instead of doubting them? Dark energy also taught me the art of boundaries. When you are in touch with your primal forces, you no longer tolerate what dishonors your soul. You become fiercely protective of your time, your energy, your dreams, not out of fear, but out of deep reverence for who you are becoming. I realized that saying no is one of the holiest acts of self-love. In what areas of your life have you been saying yes when your soul was screaming no? There were nights when the darkness inside me felt endless, when I doubted whether I would ever find my way back to the light. But over time I learned that the darkness itself was the guide. It wasn't trying to destroy me, it was trying to strip away everything false so that only the truth remained. Every breakdown was actually a breakthrough in disguise. Can you imagine trusting your breakdowns instead of fearing them? I started walking differently through the world. I no longer sought validation from others because I had validated myself in the deepest chambers of my being. I no longer feared rejection because I had already embraced the parts of myself others might reject. I no longer needed external success to feel worthy because I had found the treasure hidden in my own depths. How would your life change if you no longer needed approval to feel powerful? Another gift of embracing dark energy is the profound creativity it unlocks. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin. When you allow yourself to destroy old identities, outdated beliefs, and toxic attachments, you create space for something magnificent to be born. I found myself writing, painting, dreaming in ways I had never known were possible. The muse of darkness is fierce, but she rewards those who dare to court her. What masterpieces are waiting inside you, trapped behind your fear of letting go? Dark energy also deepened my relationships. I stopped seeking superficial connections and started craving depth, realness, intimacy with other souls who had faced their own shadows. Conversations became richer, silences more comfortable, love more unconditional. When you embrace your own darkness, you create a safe space for others to embrace theirs. You become a catalyst for healing, not by fixing others, but by embodying wholeness yourself. What would your relationships look like if you loved people not despite their darkness, but because of it? The deeper I went, the more I realized that the darkness is sacred. It is the womb of the universe, the place where stars are born, where dreams gestate, where transformation begins. It is not the opposite of light, it is its dance partner. Together, light and dark weave the fabric of existence. When you reject the dark, you reject half of your own existence. What would happen if you stopped trying to be purely good and started striving to be wholly real? There is a fierce compassion that arises when you fully embrace your dark energy. You stop judging others so harshly because you understand the battles they are fighting within. You stop needing to control everything because you trust the deeper currents of life. You develop an unshakable empathy, not the kind that comes from pity, but the kind that comes from shared humanity. True compassion is born from having survived your own darkness. How much more compassionate could you become if you honored your own scars? I realized that society profits from our disconnection from our dark energy. A disempowered person is easier to control, easier to manipulate, easier to sell to. But a person who has embraced their darkness cannot be enslaved by fear. They are sovereign, autonomous, awake. Imagine a world where millions of us reclaimed our dark power. What systems of oppression would crumble overnight? The most shocking realization was that my dark energy was not only a source of personal power, but also a bridge to the divine. In the heart of the darkness, I encountered forces greater than myself, archetypal energies, ancestral spirits, cosmic intelligences. They did not speak in words, but in visions, sensations, deep knowings. They showed me that the universe itself is both fierce and tender, both chaotic and ordered. both dark and light. Are you ready to meet the divine not only in the heights but also in the depths? There were moments on this journey that defied explanation, moments when time seemed to dissolve, when I felt myself merging with something vast and ancient, moments when tears streamed down my face, not from sadness but from awe. The darkness had become a portal, a gateway to dimensions that my rational mind could barely comprehend. And every time I returned from these journeys, I brought back a piece of that sacred mystery with me. But what mysteries are waiting for you just beyond the walls of your fear? When you embrace your dark energy, you become a force of nature. You are no longer easily swayed by external circumstances because your roots go deep into the fertile soil of your own being. You are no longer frozen by fear because you have made peace with the unknown. You are no longer exhausted by pretending because you are living in alignment with your full truth. But how much energy would you reclaim if you stopped fragmenting yourself? This path is not easy. It will ask everything of you, your illusions, your comforts, your certainties. But it will give you something far greater in return, your soul. A soul that is not sanitized and censored, but wild and wise and fiercely alive. A soul that can love without conditions, fight without hatred, create without fear. Are you willing to lose the false self to find the true self? The darkness within you is not a mistake. It is not a flaw to be corrected. It is a gift, a sacred inheritance, a reservoir of untapped power. When you accept it, you reclaim parts of yourself that were lost long ago. You become whole, and with wholeness comes a kind of magic that cannot be taught, only remembered. But what ancient magic lies dormant within you, waiting for your courage to awaken it? As I ventured even deeper, I realized that embracing dark energy is not a one-time event, but it's a lifelong relationship, a sacred marriage between you and the parts of yourself that civilization taught you to exile. Every new level of growth, every new dream you dare to chase, will summon new shadows to confront. And this is not a punishment, it's proof that you are alive, evolving and daring to live fully. What dreams have you aborted because you were unwilling to meet the shadows guarding their gates? I learned that the dark energy within us is cyclical, like the moon, like the seasons. There are times to shine brightly and times to retreat into the fertile dark, times to act and times to be still, times to build and times to dismantle. When we ignore these natural rhythms, we burn out, we break down, we become hollow. How would your life transform if you stopped fighting your natural cycles and started honoring them? There is a fierce tenderness that comes from walking this path. You become both warrior and healer, destroyer and creator, teacher and eternal student. You hold paradox in your hands without needing to resolve it. You understand that true strength is not rigidity but fluidity, the ability to adapt, to endure, to transform. Have you been mistaking hardness for strength, when true power is the ability to flow? One day, standing at the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast, endless ocean, I understood something that humbled me to my core. My darkness and my light were never enemies. They were lovers, eternally entwined, giving birth to everything I am and everything I could become. I wept, not in sadness, but in reverence. I had spent so long trying to amputate half of my own being, and now at last I was whole. What would it feel like to stop fighting yourself and start loving every piece of who you are? The dark energy taught me patience. In a world addicted to speed and instant results, darkness moves at its own pace. It gestates, it brews, it matures in the unseen places. You cannot rush it, control it, or outsmart it. You can only surrender to its timing, trusting that when the moment is right, what you have been cultivating in the dark will burst forth into brilliant life. Where in your life are you being asked to be patient, to trust the unseen process? There is a profound beauty in becoming intimate with your own darkness. You lose your fear of other people's shadows. You can sit with someone in their grief, their anger, their fear, without trying to fix them, judge them, or flee. You become a sanctuary, a safe harbor in a world that often demands perfection and punishes vulnerability. True leadership is not about being flawless. It's about being fully human. How much deeper could your connections become if you showed up authentically, scars and all? As I integrated my dark energy, I noticed that my dreams changed. They became wilder, freer, less constrained by what was realistic. I no longer dreamed of fitting into existing structures. I dreamed of creating new ones. And I no longer asked, is this possible? But what do I choose to make possible? Dark energy is the realm of pure potential, the blank canvas before the first brushstroke. What new worlds are waiting to be born through you? In the heart of the darkness, I found my voice, not the voice that parroted what others wanted to hear, but the raw, unfiltered voice of my soul. It spoke in poetry, in visions, in truths too deep for words. It told me that I was not here to conform, to shrink, to apologize for my existence. I was here to embody a unique vibration of life that could never be replicated. What song does your soul long to sing, if only you would stop silencing it? Dark energy also shattered my illusions about control. I realized that no matter how carefully I planned, life would always have its own wild, mysterious rhythm. True mastery is not about controlling life, but about dancing with it. It's about trusting yourself to navigate the unknown, to adapt, to create meaning even in the midst of chaos. How much freedom could you experience if you stopped trying to control everything? There were moments when working with my dark energy felt like being forged in fire. Old identities melted away. Attachments I thought I couldn't live without crumbled into dust. Dreams I once clung to revealed themselves as cages. And through it all, something indestructible emerged, the core of who I truly am. What false identities are you ready to burn away so that your true self can rise? The more I embraced my darkness, the less I needed external validation. I stopped needing to prove myself, to earn my worth, to chase approval like a starving animal. I realized that worth is intrinsic, sacred, and unchanging. It is not something you acquire, it is something you remember. What if you stopped trying to earn your worth and started honoring it? Dark energy also deepened my capacity for joy. When you have faced the darkest parts of yourself, the light becomes even more precious. Small moments, a child's laughter, a sunset, a kind word become miracles. You stop taking life for granted because you have tasted its fragility. You love more fiercely, you live more fully, you savor more deeply. How much more beautiful could your life become if you embraced both its darkness and its light? I discovered that the darkness is not a place of punishment but of power. It is where seeds sprout, where transformation brews, where the soul is tempered. It is not something to escape but something to enter willingly, courageously, reverently. The darkness is the birthplace of stars, and you are made of that same sacred stuff. Are you ready to claim your birthright? This journey is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about standing in the full truth of who you are, light, dark, and everything in between, and saying, I am enough. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you were taught to fear, to hide, to reject. It's about loving yourself into wholeness. What parts of yourself are you ready to welcome back home? As I stand here now, speaking these words to you, I feel the presence of all those who walked this path before us. The mystics, the shamans, the warriors of the spirit who dared to descend into their own depths and return with treasures for the world. We are not alone. We walk in a lineage of courage, of wisdom, of sacred rebellion. Will you join us? The world needs you, not a sanitized, censored version of you, but the real, raw, radiant you. The you who has faced your own darkness and emerged with gifts only you can give. The you who is unafraid to feel deeply, to live wildly, to love fiercely. The you who knows that true power is born not from dominance, but from wholeness. Are you ready to awaken? As you step forward into this new chapter of your life, remember, the darkness is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally, your fiercest teacher, your most loyal guide. Trust it, dance with it, learn from it, and watch as you awaken the true power that has been sleeping inside you all along. This is not the end of your journey. It is only the beginning. Every day, every choice, every breath is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with yourself, to embody your truth more fully, to create a life that is not a performance but a masterpiece. The darkness will still visit you, as it should. Welcome it, thank it, let it remind you of your strength. You are more powerful than you have ever dared to believe. You are more resilient than you have ever been told. You are a storm, a symphony, a sacred fire. You are not here to play small. You are here to set worlds ablaze with the truth of who you are. Embrace your dark energy. Awaken your true power. And become the legend you were born to be.